What if I told you that the most emotionally sensitive sign of the zodiac might also be the one most likely to become a millionaire? Sounds surprising, doesn't it? When we think of wealth, we often picture boldness, ambition, maybe even ruthless strategy. But rarely do we imagine someone soft, nurturing, or deeply emotional. Yet Cancer, ruled by the moon, guided by feelings, has something most people chasing success don't: a powerful inner compass. You see, Cancer doesn't just chase money. They feel their way toward abundance. Quietly, intuitively, strategically. And that makes all the difference. While others get lost in the noise, Cancer listens to something deeper. A sense, a pull, a purpose. And today, we're going to explore exactly why this sign, often misunderstood, often underestimated, has what it takes to not just succeed, but thrive. To build a life of meaning, stability, and yes, wealth. If you're a Cancer, or you know someone who is, this video will open your eyes. So take a deep breath. Make yourself comfortable. And if you love astrology with depth and soul, go ahead and hit subscribe. Like this video. Share it with someone who needs to hear this. Because what we're about to uncover just might change the way you see success forever. Have you ever walked into a room and instantly felt the energy shift, without anyone saying a word? That's Cancer. They don't just see or hear, they feel. And this emotional intelligence? It's not just a gift for relationships, it's a superpower in the world of wealth. Most people look at numbers, charts, data. But Cancer senses things that can't be measured. They pick up on subtleties others miss. A hesitation in someone's voice. A change in energy. A gut feeling that says, wait, or go. And often, they're right. That quiet whisper inside guides them to the right decision at just the right time. Think about a friend who passed on a business deal everyone said was golden, only to watch it crash a few months later. That's not luck. That's intuition. And Cancer has it in abundance. Their emotional awareness isn't some vague, mystical trait. It's a sharp tool that helps them read people, situations, and timing. It's how they build trust, avoid traps, and move with purpose. That kind of insight can't be taught in a course. It's lived, felt, honed through heartbreaks and triumphs. And the more Cancer learns to trust that inner voice, the more powerful it becomes. But intuition alone isn't enough. What makes it even more powerful is why Cancer seeks success in the first place. For many, money is status, power, luxury. But for Cancer, it's safety. It's peace of mind. It's knowing their loved ones are protected, that their future is secure. It's coming home and feeling the quiet comfort of everything's okay. This emotional connection to money is often misunderstood. Some might say Cancer is too cautious, too sentimental. But in reality, that deep feeling toward financial security is what fuels their determination. They're not building wealth to show off. They're building it to feel safe. To make others feel safe. Imagine a single mother working 2 jobs, stashing away every extra dollar. Not because she's greedy, but because she wants her children to never go to bed hungry. That's Cancer energy. Quiet strength. Steady devotion. A heart that carries everyone forward. Even when it's tired. This kind of emotional motivation is powerful. It's what pushes Cancer to research the best savings plans. To ask questions. To learn, even if finance isn't their natural language. Because for them, money is not the goal, it's the means. The bridge between fear and freedom. And here's something most people overlook: Cancer adapts. Quickly. Elegantly. When the market shifts. When the job changes, when life throws a curveball, they don't freeze. They feel everything, yes. But then, they move. They adjust. And they find a new way. This resilience is quiet but fierce. While others are stuck in panic or denial, Cancer is already planning the next step. They'll take a breath, feel the fear, and still pivot when needed. That emotional flexibility becomes their financial flexibility. And in a world that's always changing, that's gold. You'll see it in how they handle setbacks. Maybe a job loss. A bad investment. A business that didn't take off. Cancer might cry. They might retreat. But give them a moment, and they'll come back stronger, smarter, more grounded. They learn fast, because failure hurts, and Cancer remembers how pain feels. They don't want to go through it again. So they evolve. It's like the tide. Quiet, relentless. Always flowing, always adapting. That's how Cancer handles change, not with noise, but with grace. And in the world of finance, that grace is rare and valuable. And here's another secret. Cancer doesn't walk this path alone. They choose who walks beside them. Carefully. Thoughtfully. They know the people around them shape their energy, their mood, their mindset. So they build circles of support. People who inspire them. Motivate them. People who dream big, but also stay grounded. Maybe it's a mentor who once gave them the courage to start that side hustle. A friend who checks in during tough months. A partner who believes in their ideas even before they're fully formed. Cancer surrounds themselves with emotional allies, people who understand that success isn't just about doing more, but about being more. And that circle becomes their power source. It fuels their faith in themselves. Reminds them of who they are when doubt creeps in. It's not networking in the traditional sense, it's connection. And in that connection, Cancer finds courage. This isn't the flashy, high-stakes world of overnight millionaires. It's a deeper, more intentional path. One where feelings matter. Where trust is currency. Where intuition leads the way. So if you're a Cancer, or you recognize these traits in someone you love, know this: you don't have to change who you are to succeed. You just have to honor who you are. That emotional depth. That sensitivity, that quiet strength, it's not a weakness. It's your greatest asset. And when you start treating it like one, everything begins to shift. There's something beautiful about watching a Cancer work on something they love. You can see it in their eyes. That quiet fire. That gentle determination. When a Cancer finds a project that speaks to their heart, it's like watching a seed bloom in slow motion. They give it care. They give it time. They pour themselves into it completely. And that's the thing. Cancer doesn't chase success the way others do. They don't run toward it waving flags. They build it slowly, quietly, from the inside out. They don't want just any job, or any opportunity. They want something that feels meaningful. Something they can believe in. And when they find it, they become unstoppable. This passion, this deep emotional connection to their work, isn't just inspiring. It's powerful. It gives them energy on the hard days. It pushes them forward when everything feels heavy. While others burn out chasing goals that don't fulfill them, Cancer stays lit from within. They care. And in a world where so many are just going through the motions, that's rare. It's not about being the loudest. It's about being the most aligned. And when you're working from the heart, the universe tends to notice. Now, if you've ever known a Cancer, you've probably seen how deeply loyal they are. To people. To places. To their dreams. Once they commit fully. And that loyalty extends to their vision. They're not in it for a quick win. They're in it for the long haul. Even when progress is slow, even when the outcome isn't clear, Cancer keeps going. They hold the vision close. Like a promise. Like a prayer. They don't get distracted by what everyone else is doing. They know their path is different. And they honor that. There's strength in that kind of stillness. In that quiet persistence. Because while others are chasing trend after trend, Cancer is building something real. Something that lasts. Something that feels like home. And here's the part people often don't see: that level of commitment takes courage. Real courage. It's not easy to keep showing up when you feel unseen. It's not easy to keep trying when results are slow. But Cancer does it anyway. Not because they're fearless, but because they care too much to quit. It's like planting a garden and tending it every day, even before anything blooms. That's Cancer. And when those first flowers appear, when the success finally shows up, it's not just a win. It's a harvest. One that's been earned, drop by drop, over time. But here's something else that makes Cancer extraordinary. They don't just focus on the future. They learn from the past. Every mistake. Every heartbreak. Every lesson. Cancer remembers. And while some might see that as emotional baggage, Cancer turns it into wisdom. They don't forget what burned them. They don't ignore what didn't work. Instead, they reflect. They grow. They adjust. That self-awareness becomes a guiding light. It helps them make better decisions. Smarter moves. Wiser investments. And not just with money, with energy, with people, with time. Let's say they once trusted the wrong business partner. That pain? It stays with them. But not as fear, as focus. Next time, they'll ask the right questions. Set clearer boundaries. Protect their vision better. This process of learning, evolving, and applying those lessons is what sets Cancer apart. They don't need to rush. They need to understand. And that understanding becomes their edge. Now imagine this: someone who's deeply emotional, deeply intuitive, and also creative. That's a force to be reckoned with. Cancer's creativity isn't always loud or flashy. Sometimes it's quiet. Subtle. Soft. But it's there. In how they solve problems. In how they reimagine what's possible. In how they make something ordinary feel extraordinary. They might start a small side business because they have a unique idea. A handmade product. A personal service. Something thoughtful. Something that reflects who they are. And before they know it, it grows. Not because they shouted the loudest. But because their work carries a kind of soul. A signature. People feel that. Cancer's creativity often comes from emotion. From lived experience. From the things they've overcome. They take pain and turn it into purpose. They take love and turn it into beauty. And in a world that craves authenticity, that's magnetic. They're not afraid to try something different. To take the road less traveled. To follow a dream that doesn't make sense on paper, but feels right in their heart. That willingness to explore new ideas, to create from a place of feeling, gives them a unique edge in business and in life. Because when you create from within, you attract from without. And that's the magic of Cancer. They build slowly. They feel deeply. They create with meaning. And they never stop evolving. We've only just scratched the surface. The next part of this video will dive into some of the most emotionally charged, and maybe even controversial, traits that help Cancer rise to the top. You don't want to miss what comes next. One of the most underestimated strengths Cancer has is their ability to manage resources with precision and care. It might not sound glamorous, but it's the foundation of lasting wealth. Cancer doesn't just spend, they think. They consider. They feel the weight of every financial decision because for them, money isn't just currency, it's energy. It's safety. It's the future. You might see them as frugal, or even too cautious at times. But behind every financial choice is a vision. A plan. A quiet discipline that few people notice until years later. When Cancer is sitting comfortably in a life they built with patience and wisdom. They know how to stretch a dollar. how to make the most of what they have. Maybe they started out with very little hand-me-downs. Budget meals, doing more with less. And instead of resenting it, they learned from it. They turned that scarcity into skill, into awareness, into strength. Cancer understands that money flows better when it's respected. So they budget. They save. They prioritize what matters. Not because they're afraid, but because they've seen what happens when people don't. They've watched others chase shiny things and lose their foundation. And they've made the quiet decision, that won't be me. That's why, over time, Cancer often ends up in a position of steady, sustainable abundance. Not flashy. Not overnight. But real. And more importantly, secure. And it's not just for them. Cancer is always thinking about others. Their children. Their family. The people they love. That's where the idea of legacy comes in. And for Cancer, legacy isn't about ego. It's about care. They want to build something that lasts. Something that protects the people who come after them. A home. An inheritance. A sense of peace that carries beyond their lifetime. You can see this even in small actions, a parent teaching their kids about saving. A sibling offering financial support during tough times. A business built with the intention to serve, not just sell. That's how Cancer thinks. Long term. Big picture. And deeply personal. They may not talk about it often, but in their hearts. They're always dreaming of a better future, not just for themselves, but for the ones they love. And that dream keeps them going. Even when it's hard. Even when the path is unclear. So if you're a Cancer, and you sometimes feel like you're moving too slowly, or caring too much, know this, those are not weaknesses. Those are seeds. And over time, they grow into a life that means something. Now, let's talk about something even deeper. The emotional persistence that Cancer carries. It's quiet. It's soft. But it's unbreakable. When setbacks happen, some people collapse. They give up. They let go of the dream. But not Cancer. They may cry. They may retreat. But they always return. Stronger. Wiser. More grounded. Because Cancer knows what they're fighting for. And that clarity gives them power. Maybe they've failed in the past. Maybe they've been told they're not business-minded enough. Maybe someone doubted them, or worse, they doubted themselves. But they kept showing up. Day by day. Step by step. And that's the magic. Cancer doesn't wait for a big break. They become the break through dedication, consistency, and heart. Through the choice to keep going. No matter what. So if you're feeling stuck right now, remember, you don't have to be loud to be powerful. You don't have to move fast to be successful. You just have to keep moving. Cancer does that beautifully. And all of this, the persistence, the emotional depth, the vision, it flows into how Cancer creates their space. Because here's something unique, Cancer isn't just good with money. They're gifted at creating environments that feel abundant. Their homes. Their offices. Their creative studios. These aren't just places, they're sanctuaries. You walk in and feel it. The calm. The comfort. The care in every detail. Cancer understands that environment shapes mindset. That when you surround yourself with beauty, with order, with warmth, you start to believe in abundance. You start to expect more from life. It doesn't have to be expensive. Sometimes it's just a candle, a clean table, a soft blanket, a corner filled with light. But it matters. Because it reminds Cancer, and everyone around them, that they are worthy of peace. Of comfort. Of more. And in creating these nurturing spaces, Cancer does something powerful. They align their outer world with their inner vision. They make room for growth. For flow. for wealth to feel at home. So if you're watching this and wondering, does it really matter how my space feels? The answer is yes. Not because luxury defines your worth, but because your worth deserves to be reflected in your space. Now take a moment to let that sink in. Because the next part of this journey, it goes even deeper. The final 3 traits we're about to explore may surprise you. They touch on emotions, relationships, and decisions that most people overlook, but they might just be the key to Cancer's millionaire mindset. You won't want to miss what's coming next. Trust. It's such a simple word. But it holds so much power, especially for someone like Cancer. Trust is the currency they use to navigate the world. It's how they build relationships, how they do business, how they open doors that others can't even find. Cancer knows that people don't just invest in ideas, they invest in people. In energy. In integrity. And when Cancer walks into a room, people can feel that honesty, that sincerity, that depth. They don't need to say much. Their presence speaks for itself. In business, that kind of energy creates something rare: loyalty. Clients come back. Partners show up. Opportunities arise not just because of skills, but because of character. People want to work with someone they trust. And Cancer, with their empathetic heart and genuine care, becomes that person again and again. This ability to form deep emotional bonds becomes their advantage. They listen, not just to words, but to what's underneath. They understand people's fears, dreams, needs. And they respond not with tactics, but with truth. Maybe they're not the loudest in the room. Maybe they're not always selling or pitching. But somehow, they attract. Not through force, but through feel. Through connection. If you've ever seen a Cancer lead a team, or build a client base, you know what I mean. They don't dominate. They support. They hold space. And that space makes people feel safe, and when people feel safe, they open up. They commit. They stay. That's not luck. That's emotional intelligence in action. And it's one of Cancer's greatest paths to success. Now, let's talk about resilience. Because the truth is, success isn't a straight line. There are twists, losses, setbacks. And Cancer knows this deeply. Life has tested them many times. And each time, they've felt it fully. No denial. No pretending. Just raw, honest emotion. But here's the beauty, they don't stop there. They move forward. Slowly, maybe. But with purpose. You see, Cancer has an inner anchor. A sense of meaning that keeps them grounded even in the storm. When things fall apart, they don't crumble forever. They rebuild. Stronger. Wiser. More prepared. Maybe they've lost a job. Faced a financial scare. Felt the sting of failure. But instead of letting it define them, they turn it into fuel. Into a lesson. Into a story they carry with them, not with shame, but with pride. That's what makes them so powerful. They know how to rise, not by erasing their wounds, but by healing through them. So if you're going through something right now, if you're in the middle of a hard season, remember this: your pain does not disqualify you. In fact, it may be the very thing that shapes your strength. Cancer shows us that it's okay to feel everything, and still move forward. That emotional honesty, combined with unshakable focus, creates a resilience that can't be faked. And over time, it builds a kind of wealth that goes beyond numbers. It becomes a way of living. A way of leading. And when you mix that with empathy, you get something extraordinary. Because Cancer doesn't just want to make money. They want to make a difference. Their empathy isn't a weakness, it's a radar. It helps them tune in to what people truly need. What the market is missing. What hearts are silently asking for. You'll often find Cancers drawn to service-based businesses. coaching, healing, design, hospitality. Spaces where they can care and create at the same time. They sense where others are hurting. And they offer something meaningful in return. That's how they spot gaps in the market, long before others do. Because they're not looking for trends. They're listening for truth. And when they find it, they know how to respond with something real. Maybe it's a product that brings comfort. A service that offers healing. An experience that feels personal and thoughtful. Whatever it is, it's born from empathy. From care. And that's why it works. Cancer doesn't just guess what people want. They feel it. And in a world that's becoming more emotionally aware, more tuned into authenticity, that's a superpower. So if you're a Cancer with a big heart and a deep well of feeling, don't hide that. Use it. Trust it. Let it guide your next idea, your next project, your next bold move. Because that sensitivity you carry? It's not a burden. It's your brilliance. Now, there's one more layer to this journey. A strength that's both practical and powerful. Cancer's natural eye for real estate. It might sound surprising. But it makes sense. Cancer is deeply connected to space. To home. To the feeling of safety. And because of that, they often have an intuitive sense of what makes a place valuable. Not just financially, but emotionally. They walk into a property and they just know. They feel the energy. The potential. The comfort or discomfort. And they use that feeling to make smart decisions. Maybe they buy a home others overlook, because they see what it could become. Maybe they renovate with a special touch, because they understand how space affects emotion. And over time, this becomes a path to real, grounded wealth. They don't rush into deals. They research. They wait. They trust their gut. And when they move, it's with care. With purpose. Cancer's connection to real estate is more than a financial strategy, it's an extension of who they are. A way to build something that holds value. That nurtures. That lasts. And when you add all of this up, empathy, resilience, trust building, and intuition, it becomes clear. Cancer's path to wealth is not about being someone else. It's about fully being themselves. And that truth? That raw, emotional, soul-deep truth? It's what sets the stage for the final 3 insights, the most personal, the most transformative, and possibly the most unexpected revelations in this entire journey. You'll want to hear them. Because they might just change how you see yourself and your future. There's something so often misunderstood about Cancer. People see the softness, the emotions, the quiet nature, and they assume that means weakness. But the truth is, Cancer is one of the most strategically protective signs in the zodiac. Especially when it comes to money. They don't throw themselves into risky ventures. They don't follow every trend. They don't gamble just to feel alive. Instead, they pause. They analyze. They ask, does this make sense for my long-term peace of mind? That's not fear. That's wisdom. Cancer knows what it feels like to be unsafe. To have to rebuild. To carry the emotional weight of financial uncertainty. And that memory becomes a guiding force. It makes them cautious, but not frozen. It makes them intentional. Before every investment, they ask themselves not just, will this grow, but will this nurture what I'm building? That's a different level of thinking. It's not just profit-driven, it's soul-driven. Cancer invests in things that align with their values. Things that offer security, not just excitement. And because of that, they avoid the chaos others walk straight into. You might see them pass on big promises. You might see them turn down fast money. But what you don't see, until later, is how those decisions protect their foundation. How those quiet no's become the reason they're still standing years down the road. This careful, almost instinctive filtering system is part of what makes them so successful. They don't rush. They don't follow the noise. They stay grounded. And that groundedness is what allows them to build wealth, not just in dollars, but in peace. Now, we come to the final truth. Cancer doesn't just want to earn. They want to give. They want to create something meaningful. Something that outlives them. And it all starts with their drive to leave behind a legacy. For Cancer, success isn't about the spotlight. It's about the impact. It's about knowing their children are safe. That their parents are taken care of. That their work mattered in someone's life. They think about the next generation. About creating something stable, lasting, beautiful. Maybe it's a home passed down. A business rooted in service. A community project that started with just one idea and a lot of heart. Whatever it is, Cancer builds with the long view in mind. They don't just accumulate, they plant. And they water those seeds every single day. Even when no one's watching. Even when it's hard. Even when it would be easier to quit. That's the quiet strength of Cancer. The legacy is not built in grand gestures. It's built in consistent care. In little decisions made with love. In the emotional blueprint they hand down through generations. And here's what's powerful: you don't have to be born into wealth to create it. You don't have to have all the answers. You just have to start, with intention, with feeling, with purpose. Cancer reminds us that emotion is not the enemy of success. It's the beginning of it. Because when you lead with heart, when you build with love, when you invest with care, you create a life that is not only abundant, but deeply meaningful. So if you've seen yourself in this journey, if any part of this story felt familiar, like it was describing your own quiet strength, then take a breath and let that in. Maybe you've been building silently. Maybe you've been waiting for a sign that your path matters. Even if it doesn't look like everyone else's. This is that sign. You are not too emotional to succeed. You are not too soft to rise. You are not too slow to thrive. You are exactly who you need to be. And if this video reminded you of your own strength, or made you think of someone who needs to hear this, share it with them. Let them feel seen, too. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. There's more to explore. More signs. More stories. More truths about who we are and what we're capable of. Thank you for being here. And remember, your feelings are not a weakness. They are your compass. Trust them. They'll lead you home.